Well, hello. Kath Langman here, and back with you for another episode of the Scale My Shopify Store podcast. Today on the show, we're going to talk about a really critical element of a high converting e-commerce website, which is the navigation. We know statistically that providing customers with a really great user experience as they shop on your website is hugely impactful on conversions. You want customers to find it really easy and intuitive to navigate around your website and quickly find what they are looking for. And additionally, with more than 70% of website visitors now on mobile devices, the navigation becomes even more critical. We have such a small amount of real estate on a small mobile device screen, so the way we design our user interface and our information architecture plays an even bigger role. Plus, if you include all the right design and interactive elements, you'll give them nice little hits of dopamine as they successfully navigate your site, and you'll find that your conversion rate will go up significantly. So Karen from my team joins me again today, and we're going to go through the most common mistakes that we see e-commerce businesses making all the time with their website navigation, as well as her top tips for getting the critical components of your website right. And by the end of the episode, you'll have several steps that you can take and implement immediately to your own website. So without further ado, let's welcome Karen back to the show and dive in. So welcome back again to the show, 2 episodes in fairly quick succession.
Thank you for having me again.
So fun. And obviously today we've got a little bit of a different topic. We're going to be talking about website navigation and really some of the common mistakes that people are making, why it's so important to really consider this for an e-commerce business and how to approach it, really. What are the do's and don'ts? So really excited to dive into this because e-commerce businesses, our website is our shop front. If we mess this up, it's going to really hurt. So why is, thinking about the website navigation really so critical?
So there's a lot of aspects to why navigation is really important. I think it's also really important to know that navigation doesn't just mean it's your top menu. It includes all your menus, your footer menu. It includes your filter or your search. So basically, it encompasses any way a customer might be able to navigate your website. So if you think about the top menu, or the footer, filter, it all affects your store's average conversion rate, because if people can find what they're looking for and they can find it quickly, they're more likely to make a purchase. That also ties in with user friendliness. Again, if you make it really difficult to find what they're looking for, they'll bounce off, they'll get frustrated. And then it also impacts your SEO ranking, and that is kind of twofold. Number one, those top menu links is in the top of the source code of that page. So Google can actually read those links. So it kind of ranks higher for those keywords, as well as it transfers link juice to those category pages. And then if there's also a connection between the search query someone used and then the top menu link, they're more likely to stay on your page for longer. And if they stay on your page for longer and don't bounce off, Google will rate your or rank your website as a good quality website. So there's a lot of aspects why that's really important for SEO. And then obviously we all know if you rank better in SEO, you get more free traffic. So it also impacts the amount of traffic that you get to your store, as well as the quality of the traffic as well.
Quality of the traffic, yeah, absolutely. And so, from a conversion rate perspective, making more money, and then from a traffic perspective, getting traffic without spending so much money, pretty critical to really put some solid strategic thought into this. However, and I'm sure that you probably would agree and see this a lot because you do a lot of the website audits for our clients. A lot of people, they kind of just stick with whatever menu was in the theme that they're using, and they they've stuck with that. They don't really think about it again. And then the approach is, oh, I've done my website. I can tick that off my list. I don't have to think about that again. Not realizing, the potential that they've just left on the table. So
Yeah.
what would you say are the biggest, most common mistakes that you see people making with their navigation?
I think the biggest mistake, oh, my apologies. The
That's
biggest
the
mistake.
office mascot there. Cookie the dog. That's what I mean.
um, I think the biggest mistake I see is that, and this it's only relevant to e-commerce, is that you have an e-commerce store and you have multiple top menu links, but only one of them it says shop.
Yeah,
So um, out of all the links that people arrive on your store, there's an about us, there's contacts, there's reviews, there's all these information page links, but you actually want people to come to your store and make a purchase. So why hide the shop
mm,
under one shop link?
mm.
That's also really bad for SEO because people won't be searching shop in search queries. They will be searching for a specific product,
Yeah,
and then they arrive on your store miraculously,
yeah,
and they can only see one link that says shop. So I think that would be probably my the biggest mistake I would see, especially in e-commerce, is hiding your shop within your main menu.
yeah. I've seen a couple of probably the worst example that I've seen before, and I've actually seen this a couple of times where there is actually no shop link at all in the top menu, and that you have to scroll down the home page to find an image or a button to click on to get into the store. So I'd say that was the worst. I reckon a mistake that I made early on in my career. So this would have been, you know, pre 2010, so early aughts at some stage, but using menu names of the made up product names, which didn't mean anything to anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, something we'll talk about as well, is what to name those menu links, and to be
Yeah.
very precise, and make it clear what you sell. I think a rule of thumb is, if you were to have a brick and mortar store and somebody walks in the store and say, "What do you sell?" the top five things that you would list should be on your top menu. That's what you sell. So make it clear. See it as if somebody visits your online store in the same way. Make sure that those top categories are listed on that top menu, so it's clear for new visitors what you actually sell.
Yeah.
And again, there's that connection between that search query and the link on the home on the top menu
Yeah.
homepage.
It's like when you go into a supermarket, it's pretty easy to go, you walk down the end of the aisles and you can look up and it says, this aisle has
Pasta.
pasta, and yeah, that's where my kids want me to shop. And fruits and veg, yeah, all of that kind of stuff. So that's the categories. So should we dive in a little bit more and talk about some of the things that let's go through the list of things that you should exclude and the things that you should include in your menu. Top menu. Let's start there.
The first thing we see a lot is links to information pages. So there's two reasons why not to include links to information pages. Again, you're trying to sell things. So make sure that all the shoppable links are in the top menu, and don't distract customers with information pages that they may or may not find helpful to make a purchasing decision. Another reason is that don't reinvent the wheel. Most customers expect to find links to information pages on the footer. So if you add them to your main top menu, they might not find it, and then they can't find that information they need to make a purchase.
Mm.
Another one, and this one seems so obvious, you would almost be shocked that you do find it on occasion, is that people add links to other websites on their main menu,
No
which is
way.
clearly a big no-no.
Yeah.
Do not offer links in your top bit of your homepage to any other website. You've
True.
worked hard to drive this traffic to your store. Do not give them a link to leave your store. Sometimes this would be the case if you were to have even if you were to have a separate blogging website, which is not best practice anyway. You should have all your content on one website. But if you had an old WordPress blogging website and you haven't moved your blogs over, add that link to your footer again. Don't pop it in your top navigation. Links to free stuff. Lots of people use freebies or free downloadables or things like that as a lead magnet, which is beautiful. It adds value, it builds your brand, but don't pop it in your main navigation. Again, we all like a free thing. So we're here to shop. We see a link to something free. Obviously, we go there, we get the free thing, and we leave.
Yeah.
Again, add that to your footer. Reviews as well. Reviews are powerful, and they do have an impact on your conversion rate. Customers love to hear about what other customers think of your products. But often, especially if you use like a reviews app like Judge Me and Stamp.io, you can set up a whole page with reviews, and those pages obviously contain a lot of content, a lot of images. So there's that risk that people start reading reviews and then they get distracted and not make that purchase. Here's another one that might be a surprise is links to social media. So most themes have those links to social media just above the top menu. So it's not really part of your menu on desktop, but on mobile, it does become part of your menu. And again, that's that link to an outside source where you risk someone links to Facebook, checks out your page, and then has a notification in there and, forgets to come back.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which isn't as terrible, but most themes come with a home link. So the navigation would have a link that says home, and that link obviously links to your home page. So it's a way for customers to navigate to your home page. Again, people would have learned by now that you can just click on the logo and that would navigate you back to the home page, as well as you can have breadcrumbs and people can, click back that way. So it's more of a wasted opportunity because you want to keep your menu as uncluttered as possible.
Yeah. And just a question, what about with the blog? If your blog is on your website, where's the best, should that go in the top menu? I mean, I typically wouldn't, but
Yeah.
What would you say?
Definitely not. Blog should be on the footer. I also see a lot of people renaming a blog something else. So, for example, if your company name is Purple Scissors, you would say Purple Scissors info, tidbits or something like that. Just name it blog. Even journal, which is the fancy word for blog, that one's a bit more obvious, but just name it blog. It's a blog. People should know if they see a link what that link's gonna be if they click on it. Don't hide that information.
That's it goes back to your comment about using commonly expected practices and not reinventing the wheel. And if we do from a menu perspective, from a information architecture perspective, from a design perspective as well, if we're using those common practices, you don't force your customers to use too many brain calories to figure this out. If we make life hard for our customers, they're just going to go somewhere else where it's easy. All of us, we're too time poor and impatient to stop and figure stuff out,
Yes, definitely don't want to. There's tons of potential to be creative, but you should not be getting creative with your menu.
No.
That's definitely something you want to keep to best practices.
100%. So those are the things that we should not include in the top main menu. What should we include?
Shopping. That's it. It's very simple. Links to collections or products. That's it. If you have room, you can also add a link to your About Us. but that is not seen as often as it used to be. So people often would go and read the About Us page, whereas now customers also expect to find that in the footer. So that information is there if they want it.
Mm.
So keep it very simple, only links to collections and products in your top menu.
Yeah. At
Um,
those websites that have a really large range. I mean, you can't have 100 products linked in your top menu, or you shouldn't. So, like, what's the limit here?
no.
What's the sweet spot?
So the sweet spot is less than 7, because apparently anything over 7 is really hard for us to consume and focus on. So, and this is the rule with collection pages as well. Less is more. Don't, if you can group things and make it simple for customers, group it. But obviously, if you sell products, a huge category, for example, let's say Officeworks, they have a big variety of products. It still should be easy for a customer to find office desk or a piece of paper. So you definitely want to try and group as many. We do challenge you to keep it within 5 or 6, but if it's impossible to keep it within 5 or 6, don't group paper with table, desks, because that's not going to make sense. So it still has to make sense. It still needs to add value.
Yeah.
And
Helping
on that
customers
topic
to
as
anticipate.
well, if
Yeah. Oh, I was just saying, like,
pardon?
customers need to be able to anticipate where to click, and it needs to be intuitive rather than, again, making things difficult and complicated.
Yes, it definitely needs to make sense. If, for example, you have 5 or 6 menu links, but you find that your customers also search or shop a certain way. I don't want to use the word search. I want to say shop. So, for example, furniture store, people would shop by room. So it would make sense to set up a shop by room, as well as beds, furniture, your top sellers on that main menu. Again, also clothing, people might, especially if it's kids' clothing, people might shop by age, so baby, toddler, or by sex, boys or girls. Even if it's a very visual product, people might search by color. So it's kind of finding that balance, whether you add this information as a filter or whether you add it in your top menu. Another obvious one is brands. So if you're a retailer for a lot of popular brands, again, the word brands probably doesn't add a lot of value, but the user friendliness of being able to shop from the navigation to specific brands really impacts your conversion rate. So again, it's not the same for every store, and that's why I guess navigation is so tricky. There's no hard or fast rule.
Mm.
You just need to go back and think about how your customers shop, or even ask them in a survey how they shop. Put on a heat map on your website to see which links they frequently click, and then try and work out whether that will be more suitable for your top menu, or whether you could put that information in a filter to make it easier for them to sort collections.
Yeah, yeah. Um, just that comment about using a heat filter, for example, and really trying to track how people are navigating and looking for your stuff. It's really helpful to look at both the desktop and mobile versions of that, because you see some examples of websites and the desktop version is super easy to use, but the minute you go on the website, it's really clunky and difficult to navigate. But some websites do it extremely well on mobile. And, so many of us are shopping that way now. If we can do so easily on the mobile, then, we'll probably be winning more than the competition.
Yes.
I think we've got a lovely
There's
Zoom
definitely where
connection.
with mobiles, it's interesting that most things actually don't. The top menu is often not clickable on mobile. So, for example, if you were to have a all desks category, that would actually not be clickable from that top menu. You'd have to set an all desk category within your drop down as well, to make sure that both desktop and mobile customers can find those top categories as well as the drop down categories.
That's good to know. That's cool. Something you said at the start of the conversation was about SEO juice flowing through from top menu to collection pages. Want to elaborate on that a little bit?
So every time somebody visits your store, that page receives like a little tally mark. This is how I like to see it. And then if your page contains links, some of that value of that tally mark transfers to those pages. Obviously, more transfers if they actually click on that link. But every single one gets a little bit of that link juice because it's basically saying this page is important and it's referring to this page, so this page must be important as well. And it makes it very easy for Google to crawl your website. So by having your main categories in your top menu, you'll also transfer that link to. So your homepage is often the most visited page on your website, so it's getting the most tally marks. And then also it's in the top menu. People are more likely to click on those links, so they will get more link juice. And then also Google can actually read those link titles as well. So that keyword is on the top bit of that page.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely there's also an argument to keep that top menu to 5 or 6 because the more links, the more it dilutes the link juice. So if you have less links, for example, on your homepage, each page you do link to will receive more. But I think for the purpose of the homepage, don't necessarily think about that link to so much. Really focus on the usability, the user friendliness. It does really tie in with SEO. So if you do what's best for your customers, that will automatically resonate in organic ranking as well.
Yeah, good reminder. As you're talking, I'm thinking about one of our clients in the agency whose website, I mean, they've got a lot of products and the website is, we're in the process of redesigning and developing it, but the website they've got at the moment is so incredibly difficult to find products on desktop and mobile. The menu makes zero logical sense whatsoever. And it's reflected in their conversion rate. They've got a really bad conversion rate as a result. So, incredibly important thing to get right, really, or at least to do better. If you are noticing that things, your conversion rate's low, then, this would be something to really look critically at and not just assume because you know where to find everything. You're the business owner, you're familiar with it. So, but other people clearly don't if they're really struggling to find what they want. So,
Yeah.
do you want to talk us through the best way to structure that top navigation? So, this would be, I suppose, relevant for people who have more than one product in their range.
Uh, and this is, again, I see this very often people get wrong, is that list your best selling product, your main product at the front. Don't do it alphabetically. Don't look what looks really pretty. If you mostly sell desks, put desks at the front
Mm,
because there's also where people's concentration spans are. And I guess this is how we've learned to read as well. You kind of read the start of the sentence, skim the middle, and then focus again on the end. So make sure that first link, that's your most important link. And anyone who listens to this, if they're going to update their navigation and they don't know where to start, I challenge you, just pop your main seller at the front of your navigation and see what happens to your average conversion rate. So
mm,
that's one little thing everyone can do, and it will make such a big impact as well. And then that last link as well. And that's why we normally have sale or bundles or value packs or gift packs at the end of the navigation as well. So you want to make sure you get both bookends.
mm,
Then again, try and categorize your whole catalog into 5 to 6 main categories. Less, if you only have 3, just do 3. Don't invent any. The less is more is the rule. And then make sure that if you have a big catalog, that you have subcategories that make sense again. So if your top category is, for example, baby clothes, and you have you know change mats, for example, that you also sell, that doesn't really go into that category. So you will never sell change mats because people won't know where to go to find change mats. So make sure whatever you list within those main categories, actually it does make sense, and it is part of that big category. And again, like I said earlier, it's quite important to have that all category link as well, because often on mobile people won't be able, if a menu has a drop down functionality, they won't be able to click on that top menu link. And the reason is because it needs to be clickable so that the subheadings can collapse underneath. Otherwise, it becomes really tedious to scroll a big menu that's just a bunch of menu links listed. So again, go and check how it looks on both mobile and desktop when you structure it. And then my other tip is to really also have a look at how, and I've mentioned this before, how people shop. So if people often shop by size or by color or by age, to add those categories if it permits. If you're already at 5 to 6 top menu links, I wouldn't necessarily add those, only if it really adds value. So if you find people really do shop by brand, add a brand category as well. But don't add it at the front, add that main product always at the front. Your top seller should always be there.
And if people do, I'm thinking of some really big stores, birdsnest.com.au, for example. And so when you go into one of their categories, they have some filters on the side by things like, shop by size, color, range. They've got the different brands that they have, and they've got a couple of others that are quite useful.
Price.
That's filter, isn't it? Rather than top menu.
That's a filter.
Yeah.
That's definitely, so I don't know if you want to talk about filters quickly, because there's a lot of things I also see in filters. So filters are kind of, people set up their navigation or their top menu and their footer and they think, well, we're done. But then they end up with these really big collections, and it's quite tedious for customers, especially if you have to have more than one page in a collection. It means people are most likely only going to stop at that first or second page. So you need to know that those products that is on page 3 and 4 would rarely be seen. And that's why we add filters, is because we have such short concentration spans. There's also, if somebody is on your store and they're actually using the filter to filter your collection, it means they're looking for something very specific and they're already very low in that buyer funnel. They're ready to make a purchase. They just need to find what they're looking for. So that's why it's really important to get this right. I know in Shopify allows you, and a lot of things allows you to set up filters by tags. The problem with that is if you, for example, stock kids clothes in size 2 to 8, so you add a size 2 tag, a size 3 tag, a size 4 tag. When that sells out, you have to manually remove the tag, because there's nothing more annoying searching by size and you're still seeing products that size is sold out for. So there are a lot of apps that you can use that can pull in that information. So if a variant or a color or a size is sold out, it won't actually show that product in that filter option. So really important to do it that way. Another way that's really easy with Shopify 2.0 things is that you have the capability of setting up a menu, which you're then again relying to setting up a collection. But you could set up collections again using automatic rules with tags and then adding that menu to that page. And that's really important if you have like a collection all page, so people can really just find what they are looking for. You're probably seeing a bit of traffic to that collections all page as well. If you think about, Facebook ads or your emails, it's very easy to just have that one central link that contains all your products. So it's very important that those landing pages have that functionality where people can really just shop what they're looking for.
And think about it. Don't just take what was in the theme, because that's probably not very useful as a filter.
The theme usually has shop by price, which I find rarely. If you sell gifts, probably people will look that way.
Wine.
Um, or there's even a filter sometimes that you can filter by what's in stock and what's not. And I'm like, you shouldn't be displaying products that's not in stock. So why would anyone ever search that way? So definitely make sure your filter adds value
Mm,
and that it's correct. You don't want to, if someone's searching for, a red t-shirt and you have 20 red t-shirts, but the filter's not working and it's only showing 4, it means those other 6 products won't sell. So make sure your filter works as it should work.
yeah, yeah, super important. What about the footer menu? Should we
Yeah.
touch on that?
So the footer menu is kind of the central location for anything information, but it doesn't mean you just get to dump all that information there. You should still structure your footer menu. Again, make it easy for customers to find what they're looking for. If they're looking at for an information page, it probably means they need a little bit more information to make that purchasing
Mm,
decision. And if you can't give them that information page in 1 or 2 clicks, they will leave, they'll lose
yeah.
interest. So we normally recommend structuring it in columns based on what type it is. The obvious ones is about, which would have about us, contact us, your FAQ, and your blog.
Mhm.
You would put all in that. And then policies, people often look for shipping and returns. And
Mm,
again, don't list these alphabetically. People are looking for that shipping policy. List that one at the top.
mhm.
It's the most important one there. Then you can have a more informations tab. So this is if you sell a big catalog and, for example, you have a size chart or you have FAQs per category, or there's a bit of, for example, babies, there's a lot of like a tog rating or all those information pages under more information. And then the last one, if you have any stockist or wholesale registration, that's normally the last one, because obviously you want wholesale customers to be able to find those as well.
Mm,
We also recommend having a look at how the menu um, displays on mobile as well as desktop. So preferably on mobile, you want to pick a theme that you can collapse menu links beneath the column headings.
mhm.
Otherwise, it does become one long footer with all these
Yeah,
little footer links.
that would
And
be.
again, visually, does the text stand out? If you
Mhm.
hover over that footer link, does it become white on white? So make sure that those links are easy to read and easy to click on as well.
Yeah, I know that's something that you've pulled up in a few website audits. Like you'll be
Yes.
checking all the fine print down the bottom, and it's like, hang on a second, it goes white when I'm hovering, and people don't even really think to check these things. So,
Yeah.
but it is pretty important when you think about it, especially anyone who's shopping for the very first time on your website. That shipping and returns policy, that's going to be probably the second page they look at after the product. They might look at the product page, and then before they click add to cart, they're going to check, what happens if I don't like it, can I return it? So yeah, incredibly
That's
important
right.
that
Yeah.
it's easy to find. You did just mention something about mobile, but what else would you suggest for the mobile menu? Because, so many people, it's like over 70% now usually is on mobile, right? So
Yeah.
we do need to think about it.
Um, I think there's also when we work on our own websites, we're always on our desktop. So this is another big area people forget to look at how this menu looks on mobile. I think the biggest rule is to give it a solid background. Often we give it a translucent background, and then depending on where someone is on the homepage, if they were to click on that little hamburger, they might not be able to even read those menu links because of the content behind it. So I think that everybody should, number one, put your best sellers at the front and go check what is your mobile background. Is it a solid background? If it's not, change it.
Mhm.
Um, Other things for mobile is, again, don't invent the wheel. This might be theme dependent. Should you change your theme if it's against best practice. I wouldn't necessarily change it, but if you were to look at new things, make sure that hamburger is on the left hand side in the top corner, and that obviously your cart's on the right hand side. This is most 97% of websites work this way. You don't want to confuse customers. They should know where to find the menu, where to find the cart. And then other things to consider is your font type, your font color, and obviously how big you make that font. Don't make the menu. You can't enlarge a menu. Make sure that you can read it and you can easily click between those links. So obviously, the bigger the font, the easier it is to click on that link. Another thing is to make sure it's responsive. So I've seen mobile menus where you can't collapse the content again. So once you've expanded that menu, you have to scroll down and down and down. And sometimes the screen won't even let you scroll anymore, and no one can click on those bottom links. So make sure it's definitely mobile responsive. The content can expand and collapse easily. And again, that top menu link that has the little expanding arrow often isn't clickable. So the reason is so that it, if someone's trying to collapse, expand it, they're not accidentally click through to it. So make sure that you have a collections all for that reason, so people can view that big category, which is your main collection anyway.
Some really, really low-hanging fruit items there for people to go and implement. One last method of navigating would be, using visual cues and visual elements. And I mean, you mentioned before just about the hamburger menu and the common practice for that being in the top left-hand corner. We also like to use image-based, navigational graphics around the website. Homepage, other pages as well would have graphics. And one of our clients said the other day, well, why do I need to have that there when I've already mentioned it in the menu? And I was like, because lots of people don't read. But what are the visual kind of methods of, I guess, navigation, but also just the user experience generally that you would advise?
So again, don't invent the wheel. Most menus are horizontal on desktop, so this mostly apply for desktop. Obviously on mobile you want to list them. So don't have a menu where it's logo and then you stack all your menu links underneath each other or something weird like that. If everybody else isn't doing it, you shouldn't be doing it. Leave enough space between links, especially if you have, there's also an SEO to have like a shop in front of your menu items. So shop kids swimwear. I don't think that's so necessary anymore. I think keep it more concise and precise. People will read between the lines that this is a shoppable link. But if you have kids swimwear or kids rashi sets or all these long main top menu links, make sure there's enough space between these links. So especially on desktop or mobile, they'll stack, so it doesn't matter so much, but that people can see where the one link ends and when the next one starts. It seems simple, but people often on desktop group all their links in the center instead of spreading them out. Again, dark font, solid background. Have a think about what that hover color is. Again, you want to give it a hover color because hover colors show intent. So people know I'm about to click on this. It's also a psychological thing. I'm going to click on kids swimwear. I'm ready to buy kids swimwear. It shows that they're taking action. They shouldn't know, oh, did it work? Didn't it work? What if there was a little page speed delay? Did I click on it? Didn't I? They should know. There should be no hesitation or confusion. It should be clear, yes, I've taken that action. And another one is the logo placement as well. There's lots of different spaces you can pop your logo. You can put it at the front and list your menu to the side. You can put it above, you can put it in the center. And that all really is dependent on how many links you have. So if you have a really small menu, I would recommend adding it to the left. It just kind of fills it out a bit, that white space. If you have a very long, large menu, listed above it. And if you have even amount of menu links, so 3 on one side, 3 on the other, it's really nice having that logo in the middle as well. So there's a few options to do it. And then, like you also said, image, whether you should use image or not use image. It's definitely, people are getting lazier and lazier thanks to TikTok. So if you can show it in an image,
Yeah,
do it. But the rule on that is I would only really recommend it if you have a big catalog. So
definitely.
if you have a small catalog, people will read 3 menu links.
Mm.
If you have thousands of, subcategories, obviously use images to make it easier for customers to shop. But also be wary of how that displays on mobile. Is it mobile responsive? Will the image show on mobile and then push down all the other menu links?
Mm.
So definitely make sure it displays well on both devices. And if you can't get it to not push down menu links, so if you put on the images on desktop and it looks great and people find it helpful, but 70% of your visitors are shopping on mobile and it's making other links invisible, then remove it. So always optimize mobile first before adding anything fancy like that.
Yeah, definitely. From memory, pre-Christmas, when I was last doing some online shopping, the Bird's Nest website, I know they definitely have images on desktop, and I have a feeling they do on mobile, but that would be a business that they've been around for so long and they're so big now that, conversion rate optimization would be pretty front and center for them. And so, whenever I look at a website like that, it's like, I know you guys have tested this. So, it's probably done well and had a good impact. But I mean, all of the changes that you're talking about, I presume, pick a few of those low hanging fruits and implement them and then see what happens to your conversion rate, as well as, organic search as well, if you're looking at some of those elements of the recommendations, rather than doing it all at once, because then you sort of don't really know what's worked and what
Yeah.
hasn't. Yeah. I mean, unless your website is utterly woeful and it's it really needs a redesign, then obviously you do the whole thing together. Um, what would you, this is probably putting you on the spot a little bit, so if you can't answer it, that's totally fine. But you've worked with so many of our clients on doing their website audits and also just reviewing month on month how they're going with their results. What kind of an impact can people have to both, either or both, conversion rate and search volume by making these kinds of changes and improvements?
I think navigation impacts more your conversion rate than it does SEO. So I do always, when I have an SEO client, I do factor in navigation. I make recommendations because if your website converts better, your organic traffic converts better. So it can make a huge difference. It can. We always say the conversion rate should be above 2.2%, or you should strive for around 2.2%. But having a really good navigation could make could make an impact of up to, I would say, 1 to 2% difference.
Yeah.
So you can't see it as just navigation. You can't just fix your navigation. Well, you can just fix your navigation and you might get the lower end of that 1% improvement. Or you can, if you fix other things, but you haven't fixed your navigation, by fixing that navigation, then lastly, you'll see a much bigger improvement. We do have a client that we had a very successful campaign in January for and smashed their revenue goal. And prior to that month, Facebook ads and email marketing, we rebuilt that website and rebuilt the navigation. And the navigation wasn't great before we did it.
I was
And
terrible.
then looking at that results in January, it's clearly, it's a holistic approach. The Facebook ads, Google ads, they all work,
Mm.
but it wouldn't have worked to that extent if there wasn't work done to make it easier for customers to find the products they were looking for. And this was a website that had a really big catalog. So I think the bigger your catalog, the more important it is to continually review your menu structure. If you add products, do you represent them in that menu? Because if it's not on the menu, it's invisible. People
Yeah,
won't be able to find it.
yeah. It's like
You can
McDonald's.
leave it in the stock room.
We need everyone to see it so that they can buy it and not rely on people asking and reaching out and to
Yeah,
contact you and see if you have something, because they won't. They'll just go somewhere else.
that's right.
Yeah, so
But
good.
yeah, that's another good little exercise is to take your traffic and your average order value and see how much extra money you would get if you can just improve your conversion rate by 1%.
Huge.
So definitely spend time on your navigation. Don't see it as a once-off task either. Spend time on it, group it, have some post-it notes, see what you can put together,
Mm.
and really ask friends. Can you find what you're looking for? Ask your customers and have a look at your competitors as well.
Mm.
The only problem with that is if your competitor just has a shop button because they haven't fixed their navigation. So
Copy that. Do
look at
that.
the competitors.
Yeah, that's right. I yeah, you just reminded me of my previous career, which was a big digital agency in Sydney, previous corporate job. Obviously, we do similar stuff in our business now, but in that business, our clients were all big corporates. And one of the things that we did was to literally get people who were from the customer base, and we would observe them, would give them a task. They had to, find some, XYZ on the website or take whatever actions, purchase, etc. And we would just sit and watch them. We weren't giving them instructions. We weren't interrupting or trying to instruct them in any way or help them. We would just observe. And, that was just so fascinating. Of course, we have heat maps that can help with that now, but sometimes, it can just be really helpful to ask some people who would fit your customer avatar to do that kind of exercise for you and see how easy or difficult it is for them to find your stuff, mobile and desktop. So good tip there. I also just want to give a shout out for Karen, on Karen's behalf, for any potential clients of ours. If you know that your conversion rate is low, if you know you're not getting the kind of revenue levels that you want, you're not able to convert well off any of your traffic sources or to the extent that you want, getting the help, not just with your navigation, but certainly navigation, SEO, but just the website structure, content, all of those sorts of strategies as part of, the overall growth strategy for your business, or the overall marketing for your business. You could work with someone like Karen, and, have this kind of help with your business, and it can really be quite transformational. So if you are interested, please do click the link. It will be on our show notes page. Head to productpreneurmarketing.com/let's-talk and book in a strategy session, completely free, no obligation to do that. And yes, I know that's a long URL. It's not very memorable. If I'd worked with Karen before naming this business, I probably would have picked a different one. So we will put that on the show notes page. Any last comments before we finish up, Karen?
No. Maybe just touch on what you've mentioned is to test. So definitely, if you've listened to the podcast and there's something that resonated and you wanted to make a change, just jot down what your conversion rate is, the date you did it, and then check back in a couple of weeks and see if it's made an impact. So definitely don't just go and change things and not understand, if it worked or not, because sometimes it doesn't work and you might have to try something else.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely document those metrics for sure. Oh dear, metrics Monday.
And if you get to work with me, I will be insisting on metrics. Yes.
Yeah, no escaping it. I love it. Oh, thank you so much for jumping on with me again, Karen. It's been fantastic to go through all of this. Hopefully, all of you listeners found that useful, and you're inspired and motivated to go and have a go at some of this on your website.
Thank you for having me.